Hey everyone, how's it going? Today we're going to be something different on my channel where we're doing the Mangapoly challenge. This is something that I picked up from Becca and the Books, another YouTube channel. You should check hers out if you're interested in reading books as well. I'll link her channel down below. But the idea behind it is coming up with a unique way to pick upcoming books to read, and in this case, reading manga for the month. And so the idea behind this is turning Monopoly into a way to pick new types of series to read for the upcoming month. And here we have my Mangapoly manga board. It's a Monopoly board, and here we have all of these different categories for types of series that I will be reading for the next month. So the goal with this started video series is to pick a bunch of different manga series that I can read and then talk about them. My goal for this video is to pick 4 to 6 manga series that I will be trying to complete by the end of the year. If I don't reach that goal, then to start the next year, for the next episode in this video series, I will let you guys choose a manga series to have me read as a punishment, so something that I really don't want to read. And to break down this concept a little bit, going into this, I will be rolling 4 times and trying to get 4 series. So essentially what you do with the board is you roll 2 6-sided dice, and then whatever you get, you start at go and then you go down. So say I roll a 3, then I will have to choose a series that has 200 plus chapters to read. And you do that 4 times, going all across this board, and then those are the different categories that you'll get. So for example, just like I said, we have the 200 plus chapter categories. We also have, say, a category like sports shonen. We have dark fantasy, slice of life. We have a section for 80s, 90s, and 2000s manga. And then we also have a few that are a little more specific. So say we might have a series that was an anime first, or we might have a series that has a number in the title, say 20th Century Boys would be a good example for that. And also, just like with Monopoly, we have Chance and Community Shelf. And for Chance, I will be listing 4 series that I do want to read and 4 series that I don't want to read, and then picking randomly from those. And for Community Shelf, I'll have a list of 8 unique categories, randomly choose one, and that's how I will pick it. And if I get either of these twice, you take out one of them and then you randomize the 7 that are left. And so eventually I'll have cards made up for that, so you can see it on camera. I don't have those made up yet, but I figured I'd get started on the series before the end of the year. And so you guys can try and play along. There will be a document, at least eventually, down below that has a list of every single category that I have. And then eventually we'll also get a picture up of the same board that I have. So then you can try it at home and you can just look at the board, you can recreate it yourself, or you can just look at the categories and try to pick out 4 that you might want to do and read along with me for this little over a month coming up. And there is one extra rule before we get started that is really important, and that is if you roll doubles. If you roll doubles at any point, you have to add an extra series to read for the month. So I go into this game and I want to choose 4 series to read. However, if I roll a double, that will go to 5 series, and if I roll multiple doubles, that could go probably as high as 10 series, although pretty unlikely that that will happen. And so if you want to do this along, if you don't have as much time to dedicate to this, especially if you end up getting, a 200 plus chapter series or a long running shonen, you might end up only wanting to try to pick 2 series, so you don't end up really stacking your TBR. But also, on the other hand, you can make it into a 2-month series if you want, because it's a little bit harder to read a bunch of different manga series within this short of a time compared to the original concept that I got was 4 books, and books were a little bit more doable to read 1 to 2 a week for a lot of these creators. But I figured 4 would be a chance to start. Well, hopefully I don't go too far over that, but I'm excited to try this out. So we'll go roll here in a second, and then I will talk about each of the series that I'm choosing for this month. And then at the end of the month, or the end of December, I should say, I will be giving brief feedback for these series that I've picked and letting you know if I completed them or not. And then in the beginning of January, we'll redo this Mangapoly board, and I'll pick new series for that next month to 2 months. And so if you also want to follow along with my progress, make sure to follow me on Twitter at AnnieEssays, because I will be updating a lot of my thoughts on the series that I'm reading. So if you want to get more updates outside of one finale video, that's the place to go. But let's jump right into rolling for the first couple series that I will be getting for this first edition of Mangapoly. And for the first roll here, we rolled a number 9, which will take us to Sports Shonen Anime. So the first series that we got was Sports Shonen. And for Sports Shonen, I decided to choose Robot Laser Beam. A lot of the Sports Shonen are really long series, and so I wanted to choose something with my first pick that was a little bit shorter but easily accessible. And turns out I actually am a huge golfer. I've golfed a ton in my life. I worked for a golf course for a long time, and so I think a lot of manga fans did not necessarily enjoy this series, as it only went on for 60 chapters, or 62 chapters, I believe. But I figured it would be a really fun series to try out. It's by the creator of Kuroko no Basket, which I'm actually just finishing watching Kuroko for the first time right now that the dub has dropped in English on Netflix. So I figured that would be a really fun Sports Shonen series to start out, and hopefully not too long. I thought about Slam Dunk. I think in the future, if I get Sports Shonen, I'm gonna have to read Slam Dunk. I've always wanted to read that series, but for now we've got Robot Laser Beam. And for the next roll here, still no doubles, but we roll a number 8 to put us at Community Shelf. Next, we had Community Shelf, and here I actually only had 6 different categories. The first one I had Pick by a Friend. Second, I had an American manga. Third, Chinese manga. Fourth, a Korean manga. Then 5, a series that I dropped and did not continue. And lastly, I have LGBTQ representation. And so I actually rolled a number 1 here, so I had my girlfriend pick the series, and she picked Orange. I don't really know a lot about this series. I know that she really likes it a lot. She's been trying to get me to read it for like months on end. We have the entire series here. It's only, I think, 2 volumes, but then kind of a third add-on. It's decently big here. I don't know if you can see that. I think it should be overall a pretty quick read, which is nice because I'm going to have a lot of manga to get through. So I'm really excited about Orange, plus already own it, which is a huge plus. Obviously, love reading manga physically. And for this roll, we got double 6s, the first double, which gets us to 12 and will move us all the way down to Slice of Life. And next up, we got our first case of doubles. So I rolled double 6s here, which means that now I'm actually going to have 5 series to read, which is making me thankful that I didn't pick Slam Dunk right off the bat. But for this series, we got Slice of Life. And my Slice of Life series of choice is Silver Spoon. Fullmetal Alchemist is my favorite anime of all time by a wide margin. So anything that Arakawa does has me interested. I've wanted to read this series for a really long time. Obviously, you can see I have the first volume right here, and definitely am excited to read this. I have never really read a ton of Slice of Life. That's not really a genre that I'm typically going after. Starting with the author of my favorite series ever was a good place to go for a genre that I might not be as familiar with. So Silver Spoon takes the 3rd spot on my list. After the doubles, we now roll a 9 again. A lot of high numbers rolling here so far, and that puts us to Anime First. And then next up, we got an Anime First. For this category, choose a series, say Neon Genesis Evangelion, where the anime came out and then they later on made a manga. And for this, I actually picked Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. This is another one that's really accessible to me and not super long, but a series that I've always wanted to read. I've never read Yu-Gi-Oh!, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a huge part of my childhood, starting with the original series, especially up through GX and then 5Ds. I remember it was kind of the point where I felt like I was growing out of Yu-Gi-Oh! And at the beginning when 5Ds was released, I remember kind of shitting on it and being like, this series isn't that good. And then I actually watched a couple episodes and got hooked and watched the series weekly for a handful of years. And I never knew that the manga for this series actually came out a year after the anime started being produced. So I thought it would be the perfect manga to read. Again, accessible. That's That's going to be a constant theme, I think, for Mangapoly. Manga is really expensive. For me to pick series that are easily accessible on the Shonen Jump app or digitally, or some series that I already own, is definitely going to be a big plus. And so that's why I picked Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, because I've never read Yu-Gi-Oh! And I feel like I can't be an anime fan and say that I haven't. And I rolled doubles again here with 2 2s, which puts us to another community shelf, and now I have 6 manga to read. And now we got another set of doubles here. That's a little rough. I definitely did not want to go in reading 6 series. I contemplated setting my bar at 3 just in case something like this did happen, but here we are. And so I will be reading, I got another double, so I will be reading another series after this, but here I got another community shelf. And so for that, I rolled a 5 and got a series that I dropped but didn't continue. And so now I will be picking back up Pandora Hearts. A lot of people on Twitter that I see are obsessed with this series, think this series is one of the best manga they've ever read. And I read about the first 5 volumes and was just kind of with it. It might have been because I was reading a lot of other stuff that was really good at the time. Right around then, I read Claymore, which its artwork is just on another level. And then I read Pluto, which is just a story that has quickly become one of my favorite manga ever. So it was kind of a toss-up, and I ended up dropping it. But I'm excited to pick it back up. I mean, it definitely wasn't bad, but it also didn't pique my interest as much as I thought it would when I started. But I'm excited to pick it back up, and hopefully it turns into kind of this classic manga that so many people talk about as it is. And for the final one, thank goodness it was not doubles, and we end up all the way down at seinen. So I didn't get a double on my last one, so this will be my 6th and final series, and that is for a seinen genre. And this is one that I have been waiting to read for a very, very, very long time. And that is Goodnight Punpun. I own 6 of the 7 volumes physically of Goodnight Punpun, even though I have never read any of it. I've been trying to collect it. I really wanted to get the 3rd volume right now is out of stock. I've been trying to get that volume for so long so I can just sit down and read the series, but I figured I could read one of the volumes digitally. This is a series that I've heard is really going to screw with me, is really going to make you sad, and I am here for it. I have seen a handful of panels from this. I really know nothing about the story except it's sad and it goes through a character's life, but the manga itself feels incredible. I've been waiting to read it. This is probably going to be the first one I read, and I can guarantee that I get through this series by the end. But yeah, so for seinen, there's a couple other toss-ups. 20th Century Boys is one that I've been collecting. Vagabond is another series, the author who made Slam Dunk, that I've been thinking about reading for a long time. But Goodnight Punpun, I have 6 of the 7 volumes. I think I just have to send it now, and so I'm ready for the pain. I think it's gonna be a sad one, I think. So hopefully some of the other series I have are uplifting. So that is my TBR through the rest of the year. And so comment down below if you want to do this game. Obviously links down below, but then comment to me what series have you chosen, and if you've read any of these series, let me know what you think about them. And if you want to hear me talk about them, definitely follow me on Twitter at AnnieEssays, where I'll give a lot more updates, maybe send some screenshots of panels that I really like, things like that. So I really hope you enjoy this kind of new series I'm potentially starting. I think it's a lot of fun to come up with unique ways to pick manga series, because there's so many manga that I want to read at one time that doing this series makes it easy to just pick some and then hold myself accountable. Now there is one caveat to this. I think a handful of these series, as long as if I get a good chunk of the way through it, all of these don't necessarily need to be completed. A series like Orange and a series like Robot Laser Beam, yeah, those should probably be completed. Like Silver Spoon or Pandora Hearts, I'm gonna try my best to get through them all. I don't think the challenge will be lost if one series that's very long is, 60% of the way done. Obviously, if I only read a volume or 2 done, I lose the challenge, or if I completely miss to read some of these smaller series. Challenge is done. You guys will get to pick a terrible manga for me to read, so definitely going to try to avoid that this first month and see how it goes. Hopefully 6 isn't too many. I'm a little nervous about it. I was hoping for 4, but I'm excited to see where this series takes me, and so And then again, a huge shout out to Becca and the books. This is such a cool idea that she had, and I don't want anyone to get the idea that this is an original thing that came from me. It definitely came from her, and give her all the love for thinking this. But I figured no one in the manga world is really doing something like this, and so I thought it would be really cool to come up with a way to read some more interesting manga. And so I'll see you in this video series at the end of 2021 for my first go around with Mangapoly. And of course, if you like this channel, if you like hearing me talk about manga, I've actually started another series that its third episode will be releasing in just a few days, where I review weekly manga chapters. So if you read manga chapters weekly, series like One Piece, series like Black Clover, a lot of Shonen Jump series, I'm working my way through catching up to those as well. And so make sure to check out that if you want to hear me talk about chapters weekly. And of course, I still have video essays coming out as well. The channel wouldn't be what it is without those. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.